Okay, let's get into this. For today's deep dive, we're looking at a single scene from our source material that is it's incredibly revealing.
It really
It's
is.
a perfect snapshot of how the American education system guides, or maybe, misguides academically talented students.
Especially those from lower income backgrounds. We're talking about right now in the 21st century.
And our mission here is to really analyze this one moment because it shows how this old educational sorting machine, it hasn't gone away.
No, not at all. It's just been completely recalibrated, rebranded, really, for the modern age. And the core of it all is this just staggering financial gap between two paths.
Right. And the source material sets this up so vividly. It describes these college recruiters showing up at a meeting. And the line is, they arrived like missionaries bearing glossy pamphlets and earnest PowerPoints.
I mean, that framing says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They were there to save these students.
Exactly, to save them. But the irony is they had no idea, just no clue about the financial absurdity that was about to play out right there in front of them.
They think they're offering salvation, but if you look at the numbers, they're offering debt, a lifetime of it.
So let's start with that first path, the traditional one, the one that's supposed to be the goal.
This is where we meet Miss Fernandez. She's from a private 4-year college.
And she has this absolute conviction, just total certainty. She says, these high-achieving students absolutely need to attend 4-year universities.
And then comes the flip side of that argument, the judgment. She says that for these kids, community college would waste their potential.
That phrase, waste their potential, that's powerful.
It's terrifying. For a bright kid or their parents, that's the ultimate fear, right? More than debt, even.
Yeah. And that fear comes with a very high price tag. What was the number?
The sticker price for her school was pushing $70,000.
A year.
A year. So you're looking at, what, $280,000 roughly for the degree? Before room and board.
Wow. And what's the outcome? What happens after they graduate?
Well, the source says they're saddled with 6-figure debt. And for a family that doesn't have a lot of money to begin with, that's a crushing weight.
Okay, so massive debt. What about the payoff? The starting salary?
Average starting salary, $38,000.
Right. Hold on. You're taking on over $100,000, maybe $200,000 in debt to start at $38,000?
That's the math. I mean, it's not a return on investment. It's financial quicksand. You're setting them up to struggle for decades.
And the person pitching this, how is she described?
Oh, this is the best part. The Observer says Mrs. Fernandez delivered this news with the fixed smile of someone trying to sell life insurance at a funeral.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a perfect image of just complete dissonance. The smile is like armor, It's a firewall between the happy aspirational pitch and the grim financial reality.
It's the face of the institution, just ignoring the math to keep the dream alive.
Exactly. But then the reality check walks into the room.
Rob.
Yep. Rob Salinger. He's the head of the Computer Integrated Machining program at the local community college.
And his background is different, right? He's not a recruiter.
Not at all. He's a former manufacturing engineer. He's coming from the industry. He knows what skills are actually in demand. He's thinking about jobs, not just degrees.
So what's his pitch?
It's delivered in this calm, almost weary voice. Like he's had this same conversation 1,000 times.
And the numbers.
His students started around $65,000 a year.
65, okay. And the debt.
Almost none. Most finish with 0 debt.
So just to be clear for everyone listening, Path A, 6-figure debt, $38,000 salary. Path B, 0 debt, $65,000 salary.
That's the choice. And Rob could say, factually, our students get hired before they even graduate.
Yeah.
He's not selling a dream for 10 years down the line. He's talking about immediate financial freedom.
The source puts it so well. It says, Rob knew something Miss Fernandez either didn't know or didn't want to know.
He knew the math. It's simple. Path A means you start your adult life in a hole. Path B means you start on solid ground, earning almost double.
In any other context, any other kind of investment, everyone would scream, take Path B.
Of course.
But because it's education, all the cultural pressure, all the prestige points you toward Path A.
It's totally backwards. And it makes you ask, who's really having their potential wasted here? The person making 65 grand with no debt, or the person drowning just to have the right college name on their resume?
So this is the moment of truth in the room. Rob lays out these facts. How does Miss Fernandez react? Does she, have a moment of realization?
Not even close. The Observer notes she just nodded politely the way you nod when you've heard a fact you have no intention of allowing into your worldview, and then she plunged right back into her pitch.
That polite nod, that's everything, isn't it? It's the sound of the system just shutting down an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah. It is. To her, Rob's entire reality, the 65,000, the zero debt, it was all just a minor inconvenience. It was static. It didn't fit the narrative she was selling.
Because she was there to sell the dream, not to confront the math.
That's the line. That says it all. She's selling prestige, not prosperity.
And this brings us to the bigger picture. This one scene isn't just an anecdote. It's an allegory for a huge shift over the last few decades.
Right. We have to pull back here. The source material talks about the 1970s when the sorting was, well, it was blunt.
It was explicit. You were just told you're not college material.
Right. Harsh, but you knew where you stood, you were sorted out, and you went and got a different kind of job, often a good-paying one.
But that's not how it works anymore. The system is more subtle now.
Infinitely more subtle. And you could argue it's more damaging. Today, these talented, low-income students aren't shut out. No, they're steered relentlessly toward expensive four-year liberal arts degrees.
They're included. But the inclusion itself becomes the trap.
It's the ultimate irony. They're included right into crushing debt burdens they can never reasonably repay. Their own ambition is used against them.
And meanwhile, the other path, Rob Salinger's path,
still stigmatized. Those practical technical programs, the ones that lead to $65,000 a year with no debt, they're seen as less than. They're left for those deemed academically weaker.
So the social hierarchy is perfectly preserved, even though the financial logic is completely flipped on its head.
Exactly. You're encouraged to trade actual financial security for cultural capital. And that's a trade only the wealthy can truly afford to make. For a low-income student, that debt is a life sentence.
It's an incredibly effective trap when you think about it. You convince people that the only way to fulfill their potential is to take on the maximum possible debt.
Which brings us to the core insight from all of this, the big takeaway.
Yeah, the real thesis of the piece.
It's that the sorting machine hadn't broken down. It had just rebranded.
That's it. It's not broken. It's working perfectly. It's just sorting kids differently. It's no longer sorting them out of opportunity.
It's sorting them into debt. It channels their ambition through a system that ensures they start their careers already behind.
It's just a profound conclusion. So let's wrap this up. What should you, listening to this, take away from that scene?
And I think the main thing is that the system is actively, if unintentionally, promoting a path of huge financial risk to the very students it says it wants to help.
While at the same time, it devalues the debt-free path that leads to an actual, stable, middle-class life.
So the final thought, the thing to really chew on, isn't whether our educational system is broken. That's the wrong question.
The real question is,
are we willing to admit that the system is working exactly as it's designed to? And if we are, then we have to take a hard, critical look at what we're sorting them into.